Alright everybody, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I beat it a little while ago, and I've been thinking about it since then. I've been trying to figure out exactly how to go about this review. I've been like, should I do a spoiler-free review and then do a spoiler review later on? And I decided, no, this video will just be split into two parts. The non-spoiler section and the spoiler section. And I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. This is a remake of a 23-year-old game. How possibly spoilerish could the game get? Or could this review get? It's, we'll talk about that. We will talk about that. So, I just want to hop in and say, this game was announced about 5 years ago. And you can definitely tell that that time was used very well. It was definitely put into the design of the game. It looks so good. Like, it looks like your memories of the game, like if you remember playing an old game, your mind will remember things in HD because that's how your brain sees things, right? So you think that the game looks amazing. Then you go back and look at it and it's like, oh good lord. But no, this game actually looks like how you remember it. It looks like if the Advent Children movie got like a 4K remaster or something like that. It looks so good. Especially some of the more scripted cutscenes. Just, towards the end of the game, some of the cutscenes just look so mind-blowing. It's like, what kind of budget could this game have possibly had? However, I will say that some things, some elements, some assets in the game look horrible. And I don't know what's up with that. Like, doors don't look good, some flat surfaces in the backgrounds don't look good, but it's not like distracting. It's just like you'll notice it, and then there's like a motion blur on Cloud sometimes when he's going in front of the thing. It's not a big deal. 99.95% of this game looks phenomenal, and that's enough for me, honestly. Like, the few hiccups that it has do not bother me that much. I just wanted to say that because I don't have too much negative to say about this game, to be fair. Now, early on in the game, like first mission, you start to notice that there are some notable differences. Like, I'm not going to get into exactly how things are different right away, but if you have a solid memory of the original game, and it's like, that didn't go that way. Now, I haven't played the game in a very long time, and I haven't even watched a playthrough of it recently. So I have to, like, check my notes every once in a while, like my mental notes of what happened, 17 years ago or something like that when I played this game? And I'm just trying to remember, like, did this happen that way? Did this happen that way? And I've done some research, and no, it didn't happen that way, but we'll get to all that eventually. I want to say, though, that not only does the game look phenomenal, but it plays phenomenally. It plays so much better than 15. Like, I thought 13 played really well, like all of 13 games, and I thought 15 was kind of weak, but the 7 remake is just, it's so good. The only thing I don't like, though, is when you're, like, moving through the somewhat open world. It's linear, but it looks like an open world. In order to interact with some things, like to go some places, there's this little arrow on the floor that you have to step on, and then it'll like engage an animation of you to go somewhere. And it's like, are you sure that's the best way to do that? I don't think it is. I don't like it very much. I'm not a fan of that, but I mean, that's just how it is. Contextual things like that in these games are always going to be bad, so I'm not too worried about that. However, in the combat, it's not turn-based anymore, which a lot of people for some reason thought it still would be. It's more, you set the pace of the battle yourself, you employ your own strategy, and you think about how to play this fight. You use your own materia, your items, your attacks, you build up ability points over the course of the fight. And you can use those ability points to cast spells, to use items, to use abilities. Some abilities might cost 2 bars, some cost 1 bar. That's kind of how that whole thing works. And based on what materia you have, that determines what spells you can do, and sometimes what abilities you have access to. Now, what you can do is, because it's like still got the same spirit as original Final Fantasy VII combat, you can just hit one of the triggers, pull up one of your party characters, and use their ability points to cast a spell. Like if you need healing but you don't have enough ability to use a cure or a potion on yourself, tag Barrett, or tag Aerith, or tag Tifa, whoever's in your party at that time. You can use them to heal you, and I really appreciate having all that management to keep track of, because it keeps the same feel, I guess, like the same spirit of that old combat style, but without being as limited and hindered as turn-based combat would be. Now, you can also switch between characters, which is really cool because like if you're taking damage, you build up this bar called Limit, and you do this like super special attack, and you can switch to Cloud, hit the Limit button, and as soon as he gets ready to do his attack, pop over to Barret and use one of his abilities, and as soon as that animation starts, hop over to Tifa and do something with her. It's so cool and so easy to just flip back and forth between characters. You get a rhythm down really quickly. I like switching characters to keep the combat fresh and entertaining. I don't like it to get my characters out of trouble. Because the characters that you're not using kind of have dumb brain. They have dumb, smooth brains. And I'm like, Barret, why are you in this man's face? He is going to kill you. You have a gun attached to your elbow. Shoot him from a distance, please. Aerith, why are you in his face? You're our mage. You should be way in the back because you literally have all the range in the world. If you can see the target, you can hit it. And it's just really annoying because Cloud is the only one that... Cloud and Tifa are the ones that really have to get right up close. And it's just like, trying to keep Cloud and Tifa alive is such a chore already. So when you have a ranged character being stupid, it's just annoying because it's just, like, you should know better. The AI in this game is not very good. Also, the fights, the combat is easy to learn but hard to master. And that being said, some fights in the back half of the game get to be really, really cheap. And I mean, I guess that happens sometimes. It didn't take away from my enjoyment overall, but there were some fights against like just regular enemy types that just felt so unbalanced. Like there's an enemy that can stop time on you and then hit you with this like attack flurry that like each hit does like 500 damage, and like if like my Cloud had like 4,000 health, so going into the fight having already taken some damage from the last fight I was in, I died immediately. Like I went a long stretch in this game without actually dying, and then boom, I died like 5 times in one fight. I'm just like, okay, alright, that's cool, that's great, I love that. Now, as a lot of people have probably already told you, this game covers the Midgar section of the original game. The Midgar section of the original game is not very long. This game took me about 25 hours to beat. So it's like, what's going on there? Where'd you get all this extra stuff? And it would have taken me longer had I done more side quests. The thing about the side quests in this game, at certain points they are treated as a necessity. And at other points it's like you don't need to stop and help somebody find their balloon. But you might feel better about yourself if you did it. And I kind of don't like that approach, because like I want to know that the side quests are there, but do not force that down my throat. You know, that's all I really want from this. I just don't want to be told what I have to do, you know? And I'm probably gonna make you a little upset, I'm gonna tell you what you should do. Be very careful with materia, because I kept seeking out weapons and upgrades that would give me more materia slots, and then I ended up just putting random materia on everybody. I was because like my Tifa had like 10 materia slots, and I'm just like, what do I put here? Like at a certain point, you just end up putting stuff that's not worth it on there, like, oh, assess materia and parry materia. It's like this stuff does not really matter. It's just like, just try not to bite off more than you can chew when it comes to materia. Try to use, or try to select or equip what you think you'll actually be able to put to good use in the game, in combat situations, in whatever. Because you can't, well, that's not true. You can cast spells out of a fight, like if you need to heal between encounters or whatever, but it's just like, it's not always worth it. Sometimes it's better to just use a high potion or a mega potion rather than to use cure 4 times and almost run out of MP by the time you get to the next fight. It's just kind of, it's management, you know? It's management. You gotta use your best judgment and employ some common sense, and you'll pretty much be okay. On the topic of materia though, summon materia, there's not a lot. One of them is DLC, one of them you get because the game gives it to you, and the other one you get from doing like this training mission. I never summoned that one. I literally had it equipped for most of the game, never got to use it. It just never popped up for me, because summons only show up like when you're in like a dire situation, right? But sometimes not even then. And again, on the topic of materia, there's a lot of materia that you might be looking for from the original game that's just not here. But I feel like when they were going into like deciding what materia to carry over, a large part of that was like what fits how this game plays and how this game operates. And because of that, I'm alright with it. Another thing that I'm alright with, there are some flashbacks and some like hallucination sequences with Cloud early in the game that kind of like hint to like some things that happen in Crisis Core or the back half of the original game, because like if you know anything about Cloud, he's a messed up guy. Stuff has gone down in his life and it's scarred him in a lot of ways, physically and mentally. And I appreciate that the game starts early off talking about his psychology and how all of those things that you don't even know about yet if you haven't played the original game, which you should, because this is different. You should play both. But like stuff that you might not even know about, how that's affecting him. I think that's brilliant. I really appreciated it, and I felt rewarded because I knew what the game was alluding to, or at least I thought I did. We'll get to that later. But because this game is so much longer, you spend a lot more time with each character, especially Aerith, and you get to just get to know each character a lot better than you did originally, at least up to the point where this game drops off. You know, like, of course by the end of the entire game, you know Tifa, you know Barrett really well, but you get to like that same level of caring about these characters in this game because that one section is stretched out so much longer. Now I will say that it being stretched out is not entirely a good thing. A lot of it is filler. Like, there's some things are just really pedantic and they meander for no real reason. It shouldn't take 15 minutes to walk from the church to like the ground with Aerith, but it just does. And there's just a lot of inconvenient and drawn out ways to do things over the course of the game, and it just sticks out. Like, when you're playing a game, you just know filler when you see it. Like, if there's a game where you have to go somewhere but you can't because something's in the way and you have to go somewhere else and get the thing that unlocks that, you immediately know that that's filler and that's padding. And it's just frustrating because when you see it, it just sticks out. But again, it doesn't detract from my overall enjoyment. Also, Cloud Address. Cloud Address is in this game, and I love it. Everybody loves it. It's Cloud Address. You know, that's pretty much everybody's favorite thing. And the performance capture and the voice acting that went into this game really helps sell a lot of moments, like especially that moment in particular, because Cloud's, of course, is very embarrassed, but it works because you can hear him, and you can see how he feels about these things, because like the facial capture is great. It's just, this game is so good. However, there are some like mini-game sections that aren't so good, and like there's this one dance mini-game where you have to like press whatever button corresponds to the command on screen when this like light trail hits it, but because it's in 3D, you can't always tell exactly when the thing hits it, so I missed a lot of those because I ain't got no depth perception, because I can't see. And I was like, oh, it's alright, that's cool. Can I never do this again? Oh, I have to do it one more time? Okay, that's cool. But overall, like, I love how this game is presented and I love how it plays. And for the most part, I love the story. What don't I love about the story? Well, we're gonna get into that here in a hot second. Alright, so I mentioned that early on in the game you could tell that things are different. Right away, remember in the original game when they blow up the first reactor, but then President Shinra uses robots to blow up the whole thing? And it's like, oh, well, the explosion shouldn't have been that strong. It's like that whole sort of subplot. But in this game, it's pretty much outright said that Jesse made the bomb too strong, and that's why everything blew up. And I'm just like, okay, sure. And then when Cloud meets Aerith, these like Dementor-looking motherfuckers start flying around, and it's like, hey, yo, what are those? Turns out those things are like fate-related creatures that like they find people that are trying to change fate and they try to stop them from changing fate, and it's like, okay, but how are they trying to change fate? Like, the story is just kind of like unfolding, isn't it? We'll get to that. Also, remember when they dropped the plate on Sector 7 and it wipes out Avalanche, like it kills Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge? doesn't kill Wedge at all. Wedge is just absolutely fine. And Biggs turns out to actually survive at the end of the game. And I'm like, aren't there supposed to be consequences in this game? Like, isn't it like every action has an equal and opposite reaction? And it's like, this is a cost of trying to fight for freedom on the scale that Avalanche is trying to do. And it's like, why is this so different? I don't get that. I also spent a good amount of the game waiting on Aerith to get killed. Didn't happen, and I'm starting to think that they missed that chance. So I think Aerith is meant to just survive. I don't understand, because if we all know, even if you've never played, you know, Sephiroth kills Aerith. It was supposed to have happened in this game based on when this game covers that part of the story, and it's just not present at all. Aerith just lives. But as the story continues, you know, Aerith gets captured by Shinra, and you have to go in there and save her and everything, and Sephiroth shows up. Sephiroth is just there because, you know, they have Jenova, and they're trying to experiment with her, like, because she's one of the Ancients, and they want to see if they can, you know, find paradise, all that good stuff. In the original game, Sephiroth is just cutting dudes up, just on his way to Jenova, and just the trail of blood follows him. But in this game, it's like Sephiroth shows up and then separates the group, and you gotta go through a whole bunch of bullshit to get back together. And then you follow a trail of like ectoplasm from Jenova, and then here's President Shinra, and he's like, I'm a bad guy. And then Sephiroth kills him and stabs Barret, and Barret gets healed by one of the Dementors. I'm just like, what are these guys' agenda? What do they actually want to do? And I'm not sure if it's meant to be implied that Sephiroth's trying to change fate and Avalanche are trying to change fate, and it's like their fate changes are clashing, and that's why you have to fight these like arbiters of fate or whatever. And I'm just like, I literally at a certain point I stopped understanding what's going on. Like, I literally do not get it anymore. Like, I did have to look up interpretations of what's going on because I don't get it. And then Zack shows up. If you don't know who Zack is who Cloud wants to be. Crisis Core and the back half of 7, a whole bunch. There's a lot of stuff that explains that Zack is like Cloud's idol. Zack is like a super soldier. He's super awesome. He's Aerith's boyfriend, but he died on the way back to Midgar because of some stuff that happens in Crisis Core with Sephiroth and all that stuff. I don't need to get too far into that. But when he dies, Cloud dissociates, inherits his will, and starts thinking that he's Zack. He has a set of memories of the last few years of his life that don't include Zack. He thinks he did everything that Zack did. So he thinks he defeated Sephiroth. Sephiroth, I think, also dissociates, and because he found out he was the result of some like Shinra experimentation, and he thinks that he's one of the Ancients and that he's responsible for saving the Earth on his own by defeating Shinra and bringing back the Ancients, all that good stuff. But that's why it's important that Cloud was hallucinating Sephiroth earlier in the game, because so not only is Sephiroth like back, but Cloud thinks that he's the one that defeated Sephiroth in the first place, when it was actually Zack. Or, well, I guess Zack confronted Sephiroth, and Cloud did kind of finish him off, but like that whole thing wasn't just Cloud, you know, like he wasn't the only one that went after Sephiroth in that situation. But Zack shows up, and he's on his way back to Midgar, like the same way that he was in Crisis Core, and then the soldiers show up, the ones that kill him, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I gotta fight these guys, and I'm like, okay, so Zack's gonna die. Then after you defeat the Arbiters of Fate, Zack survives. Like, he beats those soldiers, and it's very confusing because it's like there's Arbiters of Fate all over Midgar. He's headed there, and it's covered. It's like swarming with Arbiters of Fate, and it's like, okay, so is this scene happening at the same time as what I'm doing, or is this set before? Because originally, obviously, it's set before, because that's how Cloud gets the Buster Sword, and he goes into Midgar with the intention of becoming a mercenary like Zack did. So in the original set of events, this had to happen before the rest of the game. But here it seems like it's happening at the same time, and then when Zack survives, he brings Cloud into Midgar. So I'm like, how did Cloud get the Buster Sword? like So, like, the best interpretation I've seen of it is that things did go down the way they did in Crisis Core originally. Then we changed fate, and now there's a new timeline, a new set of events, a new branch reality, like it's Avengers Endgame or some shit, where Zack survives and keeps the Buster Sword. And I'm like, alright, but I raise you this question. Why are we changing fate? Like, what inherently about this story demands that we change fate? Like, what is it with remakes nowadays? They just have to change the most basic fundamental stuff. Like, I do not understand the advantage from having it set like that. Like, if there was a Final Fantasy game that was about changing fate, that's fine. If you want to make a 7 spin-off about that, that's cool. But this is a remake. Like, this is supposed to be an updated version of the game that remains canon, right? So is it supposed to be that 7 is canon, Crisis Core is canon, and the remake is canon? Because they can't all be, because they're different events. So it's like, is there a new canon? Are they resetting the 7 timeline? Like, obviously what happens in 7 doesn't affect the rest of the games too drastically, but it just feels like continuity should matter a lot more than it does. And, you know, you face off against Sephiroth and all that stuff, and then they leave Midgar and they go out, and then there's like a memory of Zack walking towards Midgar while all of our characters are walking away from Midgar. And I don't know if that's supposed to be timelines converging or if that's just like a representation, because we all know Zack died in the rain, but it doesn't start raining until after Zack starts carrying Cloud towards Midgar. So it's like, I really do think that that's meant to signify that this is a different reality now, and I don't get that. Like, in what way is Sephiroth trying to change fate? Is he changing his fate, or is he changing our fate? Are we changing our fate, or are we changing his fate? Like, what? Goodness gracious. Point is, though, I don't understand what's supposed to happen next, because it says like the mysterious journey continues or whatever. Like, it's clear that from the rest of the game we can't really tell how it's gonna go. Like, of course some stuff is still gonna happen, like the whole Nibelheim thing and all that good stuff, but as far as like to the nitty gritty, just because we played the original or we played Crisis Core does not mean that we know what's going on. And on one hand I like that, but on the other hand it's like, no, because now I don't exactly feel rewarded for having some of this knowledge going into the game. I just feel like I'm learning all this stuff at the same time as everybody else. Maybe I'm selfish for that reason, but it just feels like unnecessary changes that make the story more complicated than necessary. Final Fantasy is already not a simple story, but now it's even more complicated. But I mean, that's that, I guess. It's just Zack's alive, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure all of that will be explained later on, but there's just a very sudden shift between we broke out of Shinra and here's a fucking portal that takes us to another dimension where we fight fate incarnate and start forging our own destiny. It just feels very out of place and like a really strange note to end the game on, because I was certain that the game was going to end with Aerith getting stabbed by Sephiroth, but that event didn't even take place, so the game couldn't have ended there because it didn't happen. So here's to whatever the hell happens from now on, I guess. I don't know when the next part's gonna come out. I assume it'll be next year, because the game is going multi-platform next year. So I'm sure that when the game goes multi-platform, the rest of the game will be added. That's how I'm looking at it, at least. Overall, though, I thought the game was really cool, really fun, really enjoyable. There's still a lot to do in the end game. Not really. You can just go back and replay some of the stuff that you already did with all the equipment and material that you already have, and you can play it on hard mode, which I have to, so that I can get the platinum trophy, all that good stuff. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this game, greatly enjoyed it, and I think it is worth buying at full price. I wish it was spectabulous, but the story shit is just so dumb. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Have you played it? What do you think about it? Whatever it is, whatever you think, will educate me. As always, if you want more videos, click like and rate 5 stars. Is that how that worked?